Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I need to clarify a misconception, something that comes up a lot. People mention with me, it's one of the things they point out to discredit me, and I want to explain to people that it's actually not true. A lot of people say things like, well, Jason's been training for decades and been using gear for decades, and therefore I can't believe how small and weak he is, and let's start all that over. I have used gear, including my TRT, for not a decade. I haven't trained for 2 decades because I'm only 38 and I had to take 4 years off from training and spent an entire year in bed. I started training at 19. Well, not training, but actually lifting weight. I had been a martial artist and a distance runner before that. But yeah, I got into weightlifting when I was 19. I trained completely natural for 4 years. And while drug-free and in my prime, I got up to like a 315 bench and I could squat 470 pounds. Pretty decent for a 23-year-old natty. I mean, it's not at Johnny Candido's level because he's also doing it at a lighter weight. I was weighing like 195 or so when I was doing that. Then I went on gear. I only used gear for 4 years. This is what I look like at the end. That was me at 27, weighing 245 pounds. That's not a decade of training or a decade of gear. That's less of both. That's like 8 years of training, 4 years of actually using any drugs. I came completely off the drugs after that. I went clean, had to go focus on making money and a career and stuff for a while. So I managed to get to the gym. I continued to train, continued to stay in good shape until I got really, really sick. And my Meniere's disease got really bad. It exacerbated. I've had it since my teens, but I developed it in both ears finally. It got so bad that I couldn't work. My company actually paid me to sit at home. I worked for a very big company in the hydrogen and natural gas industry at the time. They paid me to stay at home for 6 months because I was unable to drive a car. I was unable to work. And as it got worse and worse, they had to cut me off the disability and I had to work towards getting actual SSDI and live off of the savings I had in the meantime. I had to go on Social Security for a while. But I spent out of that time period, I had a 4-year period almost, 3.5 to maybe 4 years. I don't remember. I can't give you guys the exact count. It's close to that range. But I couldn't train. I had strict doctor's orders for me not to exercise or lift weights. Strict doctor's orders. And I spent 10 months in bed because I couldn't get up and walk. When it got so bad during that 10-month period, every time I tried to get up and walk across the room to do anything, I threw up. And a lot of my friends and family were so sympathetic. They kept bringing me food and junk food and stuff, and I got depressed and I overate and I gained like 100 pounds while I was in bed. And then as I was able to get up and start doing things, I did a transformation, which you guys can see the video. I'll link it down here and I'll put it in the annotations here for you guys. It's a transformation I did. And that was how I originally got the Ice Cream Fitness channel started. It was my initial transformation that I did is what got me started because I was able to train again. And that represented my 1-year mark of lifting again. Yes, I was on TRT at that time, but I wasn't blasting any gear. I was on legit prescription testosterone replacement therapy because what had happened is that the autoimmune aspect of my Meniere's disease had pushed my cortisol levels to almost 3 times the normal range. My body was overproducing cortisol, which started making me insulin resistant, was giving me hypoglycemia. And then on top of that, it pushed my testosterone levels down. And what we found is that the testosterone replacement therapy pushed the cortisol levels back down to normal. So when my testosterone came back to normal, it pushed the cortisol back down to normal range. And so it helped control the symptoms of the disease. And there's also some myths there that I'm on welfare or whatever. Technically, guys, SSDI is not welfare. That's early retirement for people who worked and paid into the system. People who paid money in, you get money for your early retirement based upon how much you paid already into Social Security. You're basically getting your money back that you paid in. However, I am no longer on it. I don't qualify. People are like, you committed welfare fraud or benefit fraud. No, I actually didn't. My doctors and them were aware of the fact that I was lifting weights again. I had been given medical orders to compete again in powerlifting by a doctor who had also written part of my review for the disability. So nothing was hidden there. Nothing was a scam. It was all fully disclosed to the government. And because of the amount of money that I make off of YouTube and writing and affiliate programs and everything else, I obviously no longer qualify for any of those benefits. So I was put into the return to work program quite some time back. So the reality is what I have done, I've come back from someone who was pretty much over 3 years of no training, spent an entire year in bed while in my mid-30s. And I have come back and rebuilt myself to the point to where I've competed successfully in powerlifting, been invited to the WPC World Championships. You guys have seen me squat over 500 pounds without wraps and raw on camera. You guys have seen me deadlift. I think the most I've ever deadlifted on camera was maybe 585. You guys have seen me bench about 340 on camera with a pause. Those are things that I've done coming back as a middle-aged man from a full disability while still having a medical condition with a massive autoimmune component to it. I still have the medical condition. It's just that I've got it under control enough through my training and my lifestyle that I have been able to control the symptoms to the point to where I am no longer medically disabled and I no longer require any sort of help, and I actually survive and make a living doing things that I enjoy so that I no longer need to be on any sort of disability. And I don't think of myself as disabled, even though technically my doctors classify me that way in my medical records. I am classified as disabled. I choose to not think of myself that way. And I've made the conscious choice to do these things. And so what I would point out to a lot of people who talk about my results and decades of gear use, guys, there's not decades of gear use. So put that part into perspective. And I've come back from that disability and have been able to squat over 500 pounds, deadlift over 600, almost 600 pounds, bench press over 300 pounds for reps, all on camera for you guys and in competition, as someone who's come back from pretty much being unable to walk, unable to drive a car, unable to work. So that's where I'm at, guys. And so put that in perspective when you're taking my advice and you say, oh, Jason isn't as impressive as we think he should be. Of course not. But I challenge you to find someone else out there, anyone in the fitness community who has gone through physically what I have gone through, who has made the type of comeback that I've made. I challenge you to find somebody. And if you can, then I will give them props. But don't think that because I haven't achieved what you think a healthy person in their 20s should achieve, who's never been bedridden or sick or anything in the recent years, that it means that I don't know what I'm talking about. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.